So now we've looked at fabrics and we've also explored the property editor. So by doing this, we've demonstrated the process for applying different types of fabric to each particular pattern. So in this instance it was leather and satin. And we've also looked at adjusting these options in the property editor just to again adjust the overall look of the garment you're working on, just so you can dramatically change the overall appearance just quickly and easily. So now, taking things a step further, we're going to go back to our fabrics and we're going to actually start looking at the process for applying textures. Now this is just going to be a quick overview because I'm going to work on the textures, the actual textures that I'm going to use in the final render later on. But I'll be following exactly the same process as we are here. So the first thing to point out is if you look over to your left, you have a library button here. If we click on it, you have sort of a list of favorite places. And it's handy just to add in, just by clicking the plus button here, you can add in a directory so you can quickly get to that. And by default, you have these in here: garment, avatar, pose, and motion. But what I've done is I've added in a Digital Tutors textures folder, and that just points to a folder on my hard drive. So what I'm going to do is simply, we have dresspattern.tga. I'm just going to click on that and drag it over to the skirt. And as you can see, that has automatically applied that texture to the skirt. So let's just close the library down for a second. So everything with the skirt fabric applied now also has this texture applied. We can see down here, you can also add it by clicking on this button here and pointing directly to it. So with that applied, we can now go in and use these buttons here. So we can select the texture, and that button is the Transform 2D Texture, and we can scale this. So maybe we want the skulls to be smaller, and it'll update in here. We can also rotate this by clicking here. And if you notice, that will only update this particular pattern. So scaling will do it on a global scale. You can also rotate, but that will just affect that one particular pattern. So that was pretty easy. You just drag and drop a texture on there. You can see it in both editors and you can easily edit it. If you want the scale different on a different pattern, you'll just have to create a new fabric, just so that, well, yeah, as you would normally if you were using different fabrics on a garment with different scaled patterns on, you'd use different fabrics. So that's just basically that. What we can also do is, if we move up here, let's just explore another area. I mean, obviously you still have all the options you had before, adjusting the colour. It will take the colour from the texture, so it's good to keep that in mind. Although, let's have a look. Yes, I think because the skulls are white, it's also allowing us to change the colour. So that's quite handy. So that's something we can play around with as well. The colour, the specularity, just as we did before. Set that to white so it shows up a bit more. So there we're starting to add more detail onto the skirt. So what we can also do is we can also use transparent materials, just so you can get sort of lace, or sort of a lace effect on the edges of the skirts here. So for this instance, I'm just going to create a new fabric because we want these areas to be different. So let's just switch this to fabric 1, which is our temporary fabric down here. And now we can go back to our library. We have Dress Pattern Alpha. Drag that and drop it onto this panel here. And now we have a transparent texture. So obviously this particular pattern doesn't really fit here. What you want is a nice intricate lace pattern there, but this is good just to demonstrate that. And then we can also go in and we can, just like we did before, scale that down, rotate it, and just play around with the positioning. It's all quite easily done. So that's applied there with using the alpha. We have the main colour here, and yep, by the looks of it, using white allows you to still then use, still then dictate the colour. So that's just a quick way of just adding in those basic textures. And the good thing is, when you come to export, it will export all those textures for you, and they'll all be applied just as they are here, which is quite a nice touch. There's one more area of the textures I want to explore, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video here, and we'll just pick that up in the next video.